Shabbat Shalom. Remember way back to the beginning of November when that's not even funny, when the Cubs won the World Series? It was amazing. After a 108-year drought, they won the whole thing in a 10-inning Game 7 victory. With the exception of Cleveland Indian fans, the Cubs basically had the entire country cheering them on. And I remember every time their star pitcher, Aroldis Chapman, would walk onto that mound, the field felt electric. We felt excitement and fear and confidence, foreboding, power, inevitability. Every feeling sports fans can feel, we felt as Chapman ascended his throne, ready to diminish batter after batter after batter. But as it turns out, I am apparently not a sportscaster, and we are not in an episode of Baseball Tonight right now. I'm actually more interested in moral questions than athletic ones. So when I watched Chapman ascend that mound, feeling all the feelings like everyone else, I also felt conflicted, even troubled. Remember, this was the same superb athlete that had recently been accused of choking his girlfriend, pushing her against a wall, and firing 8 shots from a gun. No criminal charges were filed, but Major League Baseball suspended him 30 games. So that's the moral question. Is it right to cheer for an amazing pitcher who is also a potential perpetrator of domestic violence? What happens when in public you're a hero, but in private you're a criminal? Should we, the audience, hold public figures accountable for their private wrongs? And if we don't, which of course is the case here, are we complicit in their crimes somehow? By cheering for Chapman, are we enabling a system that allows for and even perpetuates a crime so horrible as domestic abuse? What is our collective moral responsibility? I'll ask it a different way, because maybe baseball isn't your thing, but Judaism is your thing. Is it okay for Jews to travel to Germany for fun as a tourist? Can you go to Berlin for some culture and some schnitzel? Is that okay now? Would it have been okay in 1945 or even 1965? Or I can ask it this way. Should Jews drive a Mercedes, a Volkswagen, a BMW, or an Audi? It's well documented in pictures and recorded words that these companies became rich from Jewish slave labor. Tens of thousands of concentration camp workers enabled those companies to reap massive profits. These German car companies used starved, beaten prisoners destined for the gas chambers to assemble carburetors. So is it okay now to drive those cars? One idea about collective responsibility is that time seems to reduce culpability. So maybe generations before us did the work of holding those companies accountable, so we don't have to. After all, many of these companies have admitted their wrongs, made apologies, and in some cases even offered financial concessions to offset their sin. The country of Germany itself made reparations, offered official apologies, made a serious effort to atone. And I'll even give you some Torah to prove the point. Deuteronomy says parents are not to be put to death for their children, nor children put to death for their parents. Each will die for their own sin. So according to that biblical idea, our job is not to hold past perpetrators of public wrongs accountable. Time heals wounds. Do you agree? I'm not really sure. Imagine this. Your loved one is about to get married. She's planned every detail of the wedding, the dress, the flowers, the venue, and she tells you she is going to walk down the aisle at her wedding to Wagner's Wedding March. You know it. Dun, 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 right? Wagner was a virulent anti-Semite. He wrote a philosophical essay about Jews that he published, where he claimed Jews were responsible for all that was wrong with culture and with art. He wrote that he holds the Jewish race to be the born enemy of pure humanity and everything noble in it. His music was ultimately adopted by the Nazis, even though he was dead long before Hitler's rise. Hitler himself is said to revere Wagner as a role model of sorts. So if time reduces accountability, it should be fine to waltz down the aisle to Wagner's tones. Do you feel comfortable with that? Should we use the music of a Jew hater in a sacred ceremony for Jewish lovers? I've seen many Jews who know about Wagner's beliefs choose not to use that music. But why are we holding Wagner accountable, who died in 1883, but driving to that very same wedding in a Mercedes? Something's off here. Collective responsibility for individual sin is not a simple matter. We can't and we don't want to boycott everybody that has ever been problematic for Jews. If we did, I think we all know we'd be pretty limited in our life choices. To be clear, I'm not advocating that we avoid cheering for the Cubs or avoid driving a certain type of car. I'm just provoking the conversation because it's important, not just in the past, but right now, in the present. For example, some of us have likely seen the film The Birth of a Nation, but most of us haven't. The movie is based on the story of Nat Turner, the enslaved man who led a slave rebellion in Virginia in 1831. The film premiered to great acclaim, winning awards at Sundance and a massive distribution deal. Because of its success, the film garnered more and more attention, and ultimately, it came out that the director of the film had been accused of rape decades ago. He was acquitted. The accuser committed suicide in 2012, and a shadow was cast over the film. It underperformed at the box office. The likelihood of an Oscar run was diminished. So was that right? The film could have been a profound educational tool, helping our country to address its past and present struggles with racism. And the film featured many often marginalized Black actresses. What about their work? Should their work be perceived as somehow morally tainted because of the film's male director's alleged and later exonerated criminal past? When the press and public play judge and jury, these matters become rather murky. So what am I saying? It's hard to hold public figures accountable. It's hard because we love music. It's hard because we love sports. It's hard because time passed. It's hard because we don't want to hold on to the negativity and the resentment and the anger. We want to move forward. We want to cheer. We want to dance. Walking around angry and bitter is like walking around with a weight on you. We don't want to do it, and we're not going to. I think we're going to cheer for the Cubs every time. I want to urge all of us to search for a middle ground. Is there a way to cheer for the Cubs but also take a public active stance against domestic abuse? Is there a way to drive your favorite car but also to fight anti-Semitism? We are not responsible for other people's sins. We are certainly not responsible for the crimes committed by other countries. But the rabbis did teach that silence equals assent. Doing nothing and watching injustice unfold is perpetuating injustice. Rabbi Tarfon used to say, "It is not for us to complete the work, but neither are we free to desist from it." Starting now, let's not desist. Let's not look the other way when public people commit private wrongs. We can't solve all sins, cut off all crimes, or remove all wrongdoings, but we can voice resistance. We can wade into the murky waters of moral collective responsibility. Whether we like it or not, we're already knee-deep in it anyways. Shabbat Shalom.